The Star Wars phenomenon that started during the late 1970s reinvigorated the sci-fi film genre. While many imaginative original science fiction films came to fruition because of the blockbuster success of Star Wars, many knockoffs were also produced to cash in and ride on the coattails of that success. Though many pale in comparison, there are a rare few that can be viewed as diamonds in the rough. It's all a matter of taste. Though the highly reputable New York Times described Starchaser, The Legend of Orin, as such a brazen ripoff of George Lucas's Star Wars that you might think lawyers would have been called in. I fall on the flip side of that coin, that would affectionately refer to Starchaser as Star Wars inspired rather than a ripoff. Most films inspired to follow in the footsteps of Star Wars were usually limited by low budgets, often failing to achieve the desired effect, leaving the end product seeming uninspired. It's my estimation that Starchaser's top-notch animation elevates it to heights far beyond its fellow live-action Star Wars-influenced films, and its Star Wars-inspired characters are also a cut above the rest. Produced by Young Sung Productions Company, who also worked on the production of Star Wars Droids, and directed by Young Sung Production founder Stephen Hahn, Starchaser was released in 1985, a couple of years after the wrap-up to the original Star Wars saga, Return of the Jedi. The tagline on the video cassette release actually boasts about this. The search for the Force is over. The adventure begins. It was not only one of the first animated films to be formatted for 3D, it was also the first to use a mix of traditional and computer animation. Though Starchaser has its fans, unfortunately it's usually underrated by most others that know of its existence. But for the most part, it's a film that slipped into obscurity. Well, it's time for Total Recall. For the initiated, sit back and enjoy the nostalgia trip. And for those new to the scene, welcome to the fold. Mad About Superheroes presents Starchaser, The Legend of Orin, Retro Review. The story depicts a futuristic world called Trinium. For a millennia, slaves have known no other existence than mining crystals and forced under the lash of robot minions controlled by a self-proclaimed god named Zygon. Orin, a young miner, unearths a sword embedded in the rocks. Hops, grandfather of Orin's girlfriend, Elan, recognizes the sword and gives his life to save Orin and keep the sword a secret. When Orin later takes the sword into his hands, it ascends into the air before burying itself in the cavern floors. A projection of an old man appears from the blade, telling those present that above the caverns is a magical universe that the people can ascend to. The blade disappears, leaving only the hilt. Forced to leave Orin's young blind brother, Callie, behind, Orin and Elan set out to discover this universe and recover the blade of the sword. Pursued by Zygon's robots, they emerge in an industrial complex where they meet Zygon, who reveals the face of a human beneath his mask. Zygon strangles Elan to death, but Orin manages to escape when Zygon is distracted by the sword's hilt. When Zygon's robots accidentally fire on a crystal deposit, Zygon presumes Orin dead in a cave-in caused by the explosion. Orin digs a tunnel to the surface of Trinium.
It's not a lie. It's not a lie.
Later, Orin is briefly captured by mandroids, a group of decaying half-organic, half-robotic beings who intend to tear him apart and use his body parts to replace their own. Unexpectedly, his sword's hilt produces what appears to be an invisible blade, killing two of the mandroids, which aids in Orin's escape. Orin subsequently runs into a human smuggler named Dag, pilot of the Starchaser, who takes Orin along on his journey to smuggle crystals. Eventually, Dag seizes a load of crystals from a hovering freighter, but is driven away by Zygon and his robotic guards. During the fight, Dag uses a fembot named Silica as a shield from laser blasts. After their getaway, Dag reprograms Silica, and she develops an attraction to him, to say the least.
Has anyone ever told you that you're awfully cute for a meat body?
At the same time, a mysterious starfly appears and attaches itself to Orin. To round out the cast, Orin later befriends a rebellious governor's daughter named Aviana, who joins their ragtag ensemble. Armed with a magical sword and his newfound friends, Orin eventually returns to the mines to liberate his people and for an inevitable showdown against Zygon and his forces. As thin as plot may be, or as obvious to their Star Wars counterparts as they are, there's something about these characters that works for me. Especially Celica. I really like her design. A female C-3PO is somehow more appealing. Her flirtations with Dag are fun, as weird as it can get at times. I also like her banter with Arthur, Starchaser's computer.
Arthur?
Where am I? Oh, dear. What have you done to me? I'm naked. Put my ship back on, you perverted fembot.
I was only trying to help. Ungrateful son of a bitch.
L-337, Lando's droid from Solo, A Star Wars Story, has the exact attachment to Lando as Celica has to Dag. Is it a ripoff or inspired by Starchaser, The Legend of Orin? Or just a coincidence? Akin to Han Solo, Dag is my kind of scoundrel. I really like the introduction of Dag rescuing Orin.
You've got exactly 10 seconds to tell me what you're doing in this swamp, or you'll be swimming with those two mandroids. What in the hell are you doing?
Inserting a character into the mix by rescuing Orin is a reoccurring theme in the film. It's also how Aviana joins the crew. Orin does get to return the favor on both counts though.
Hey, knock it off!
Orin also gets a satisfying payoff in the end, as predictable and cliche as it is. It's still fun nonetheless. Zygon is a menacing enough villain that proves his deadly intent early in the film when he kills Elan. I especially like the mask he wears to seem more godlike, but he doesn't wear it enough in my opinion. The manner in which Zygon meets his demise by being cut in half predates Darth Maul's death in Star Wars The Phantom Menace by about 15 years. Is it a ripoff or inspired by Starchaser The Legend of Orin, or is it just coincidence? The business end of the sword that's missing and magically appears when it's needed most is by far my favorite idea, and is the most original premise in the film. The aforementioned scene featuring the mandroids is really well done, and is a great display of how the sword works. The mandroids' intention to use Orin's body parts to replace their own decaying parts would be rehashed in John Carpenter's Escape from LA, when the Surgeon General of Los Angeles, played by Evil Dead star Bruce Campbell, captures Snake Plissken and has the same intentions as the mandroids. Is it a ripoff or inspired by Starchaser The Legend of Orin, or just a coincidence? Though nowhere near as iconic in design as the Starship Enterprise or the Millennium Falcon, the Starchaser is still a pretty cool looking ship itself. Starchaser The Legend of Orin is a movie I first saw when I was a kid shortly after it came out, and I have fond memories of it. In late '89 or early 1990, during my teen years, I started to purchase and collect video cassettes and came across Starchaser. I snatched it up, and I watched it repeatedly. Starchaser fits in perfectly with other personal favorites, Heavy Metal, Rock and Roll, and Transformers the movie. The only thing that's sadly missing is the rock and roll music heavily featured in the aforementioned respective films. That said, Starchaser is perfectly set to a more traditional adventurous film score, composed by Andrew Belling, who also composed the score to the sci-fi animated feature, Wizards. Back in 2012, it was announced that a live-action version of Starchaser: The Legend of Orin was in the works, but nothing has materialized since. Though a live-action interpretation could be good, it's well documented that most remakes or reboots haven't fared too well, so maybe its failure to launch isn't such a bad thing. Though Starchaser was clearly influenced by Star Wars, as mentioned, it has quite a few original concepts of its own. Ideas that the aforementioned films could have possibly taken inspiration from. Starchaser has plenty of action and adventure, visually pleasing animation, stellar voice acting, and unique character designs that I think, had it been a bigger hit, could have been a great line of action figures. My appreciation for animation and the fact that you can achieve more visually in an animated feature versus a live action feature plays a huge part in my thought process as to why I think Starchaser: The Legend of Orin is the best Star Wars inspired film out there, and I highly recommend it. Hopefully this video has enticed you to either watch Starchaser for the first time or to rewatch it. It's available on DVD and Blu-ray, as well as some streaming services like Amazon Prime, and it's also been uploaded in its entirety by a user right here on YouTube. Thanks for letting your geek flag fly with Mad About Superheroes. Please don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and comment down below.